Okay.
It says it's Liz Kershaw's got a point, hasn't she? She's the latest of quite a few women who reach a certain age, and the BBC make it plain they don't want them anymore.
Whether it's age or whether it's something far more unpleasant, which is their appearance, I think is a moot point. There are a lot of women on the BBC, say on the news channels in particular, but in the main, when they're at the main level of public eye, they are very attractive, very well dressed. You think about who the people who front Question Time and BBC News, etc. However, when you look at their male equivalents, they're much more like me, really, much more gnarled and older and scruffy.
We don't want that.
and I'm afraid that is a brutal truth, that there is a culture within the BBC which thinks that somehow men age better, so we'll keep them. And you see it across the news department, you see it across showbiz, and it is a sad truth that Liz Kershaw is almost certainly telling the truth here. You remember the BBC managed to get itself into a heck of a pay row when the China editor, I'm afraid I can't remember her name, discovered she was paid massively less than her comparative editors in America, in different areas of the BBC. And the only thing she could pin it down to, job responsibilities were the same, staffs were the same, amount of time on air was pretty much the same. She was a woman, and she took the BBC to court, and they had to pay her, and it initiated a whole series, you will remember, of pay review stories. The BBC, which sadly, I mean, you have to realise that the news department of the BBC is largely run by women, yet that view about what is acceptable to be seen by our viewers seems to permeate their thinking too. I think it's so old-fashioned, I think it's wrong, and it really ought to stop. And I really feel for Liz Kershaw.
Indeed, a nice lady. I used to do the Sky newspapers with her, and a very switched-on lady as well, who loves her music, got lots of experience, former Radio 1, of course, and suddenly turfed out of her job. It's all the more annoying, really, that the BBC, which we pay for, which loves to project the image of, an egalitarian organisation, everybody is treated the same, and certainly would in no way want to infringe upon women's rights, does by getting rid of them when they reach the age of 60, or in Miriam O'Reilly's case, 53.
I know, it's absolutely outrageous. If you look on... as I say, my particular interest is news. So I watch the coverage of Ukraine, and pretty much the only older women in running that coverage brilliantly, incidentally, are Lise Doucette and Orla Guerin. They're the only two really older women that you see on air. You see a myriad of men, and I admire them all, incidentally. I mean, that's a heck of a thing, being a war correspondent. I've done it myself. It's damn scary. But is that really, there's only two acceptable older women amongst all those older guys appearing on our screens? There is a groupthink in the BBC, and I'm afraid they've got it wrong, and it ought to finish. You look, you know showbiz much better than me, but you look at the Radio 2 lineup, Kevin. How many older people are in that?
Yeah,
older guys. They dominate virtually from start to finish. There is no room for Liz Kershaw, however.
Yeah, I mean, you would ask, how come Liz Kershaw gets the heave-ho, but John Simpson, the veteran defence correspondent, who must now be about 307 years old, is still very much in situ?
I think he's older than that, to be honest. and I think that quite literally he does what he wants. Do you remember Kate Adie?
Yeah, of course.
You know, this is a great war reporter. When was the last time you saw her on TV? I tell you what she does. She fronts a once a week radio program for Radio 4. And there is a very long litany of this. And it goes across news, it goes across showbiz, and it is simply not right. And as I say, I find it particularly offensive that in news, it is largely run by women. The showbiz area, you will know better than me, is absolutely dominated by women. And yet they go along and perpetrate that same sort of groupthink against their own sex.
To move on to another BBC issue, Neil, I'd be interested in your take on it. There was a report came out by Reuters, the news organisation, last week, saying that something like, I think it's now 55% of the British population do not trust the BBC to be impartial when it comes to news. That's no surprise to you, no surprise to me. Talk to anyone in the pub, they go, oh, they're just a bunch of lefties. And I think there's a lot to be said to justify that accusation. What's the problem, it seems to me, with the BBC is they don't recognise it in themselves. They actually still think they're extraordinarily unbiased and impartial. That is a problem when you're blind to your own problems, isn't it?
I think it's a huge problem at the particularly at the BBC. It permeates other organisations. Part of the problem is they hire themselves. They perpetuate who they are. They are interested in the main, middle class or upper class, white university graduates, and
public school, of course.
Yeah, a lot of public school, and what they don't see is they don't see all the Clyde Myries that are out there. Clyde Myrie is an old friend of mine, one of the lead presenters now on the BBC. Yep. But there aren't many like Clive who came up through a much more sort of route that you and I came through, which is, you know, joining local newspapers and fighting our way through. The BBC, television and radio, hires itself, and it concentrates in inner city areas. The cabal that runs the BBC in London in particular, I don't think they would have a clue what it would be like if they walked the streets of Birmingham or Wrexham or Penzance or wherever it was. They have no recollection, no remedy to their own self-choice.
Yeah, as I say, it's a lack of self-awareness that I think is the problem. They really do.
They don't accept there's a problem, do they?
No, and that is at the heart of the problem. Neil, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks very much, mate. That's Neil Wallace, former editor of the Sunday People. Let's